Welcome to episode 97 of the Valley Sports Talk podcast. We're back. We're a bit late. We had a baseball Thursday, so we're gonna have to probably start recording on Wednesdays, posting Fridays, which is okay. But since we have baseball Thursdays, our evenings are a bit busy, considering we both work during the day. But yeah, we're back. Episode 97, getting one closer to 100 every week. We do have a special episode coming for 100. Details about that will be released in the near future as we are about a month away now. I think it's set to release on the 21st of June,
Okay.
considering today is June 1st. So about 3 weeks, which is cool. But yeah, we're back. Each series in the conference finals is currently 3-2. Last night, the Oilers defeated the Stars 3-1 in Dallas. So it's going to head back to Edmonton for game six, where they can punch their ticket to the Stanley Cup final. And today, since I'm going to upload this video right after we're done recording, the Florida Panthers look to go back to back or back to the Stanley Cup final for the second year in a row, as they are up 3-2 on the Rangers.
Yeah, these series have been cool. It's kind of been the exact same series both ways. Like the away team won game two, game one, sorry. Then the home team won game two, and then when they flipped, like like both favorites lost game one, won game two and three, lost game four, and then lost game five at home, um, to be down 3-2. So both teams that have a chance to go to the Stanley Cup Finals will be playing on home ice, which I think is a really big factor.
Hmm.
Um, I wouldn't be surprised if both these series go seven. My Dallas in five isn't looking too good anymore, but I still think they got a chance to pull it out. But I find it kind of funny how um, both favorites are kind of down in series right now, heading to the opposing arena, and it's kind of just why hockey's such a great sport because you never know who's going to win. We just saw in the NBA, like we had a 5 game series and a 4 game series in the conference finals, and that doesn't make for the best viewing experience. So if these both go seven, that's gravy.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Dallas series goes seven. I could see Florida ending it tonight. I don't know. I don't I'm not high or I won't be high on the Oilers. The fact that I mean I guess their depth is kind of stepping up in this, and but it doesn't really feel right to me that a team with a goaltender that's under an 800 or under a 900 save percentage is going to possibly be in the Stanley Cup Finals. I just feel like that doesn't really add up.
Yeah, Stuart Skinner's been weird. Like if you look at all the goalies, obviously he was pretty good last night. But you look at all the goalies in the playoffs, and there's just a huge divide. Like you can put Ottinger, Shesterkin, and Bobrovsky sort of in the same caliber, although I think, pardon me, Shesterkin's been the best one so far.
100%.
But then yeah, Stuart Skinner's just definitely a level below those guys. You can't put those four in the same category. But I mean, like Edmonton's goal scoring has been keeping them in it, and they won a low scoring game last night, but uh, most of the other games they've it's been their goal scoring that's been putting them ahead of Dallas.
Yeah, and I honestly think that it's not even Ottinger's fault in this series. I think he's playing fine. I think it's honestly just been the fact that the Stars, they had that 2-0 lead early. I know game two they had a good game. They went down early 2-0, came back and won that game. I think they need to get back to that level of play where when they were down 2-0, the way they came out that second period, I think they need to get back to that style of play. They've sort of came out flat the last couple games. I know they had their chances in the first period last night, when I was watching, but I just feel like they have to, in order to come back and win this series in seven. I think they have to start, finding those chances. They had chances in their first period last night, that they just couldn't convert on, whether it was a block shot, whether it was just a missed opportunity. And I also think they're giving up a lot of shot opportunities. This goalie is under a 900 save percentage for a reason. Like we just mentioned, he's not in the same sort of tier as the other three goalies allowed. So you got to shoot the puck whenever you want. The main part I'm thinking of is I don't know. I'm assuming you watched the game last night, but it was the first period when Logan Stanko was like wide open in the slot. He had a wide open shot and he decided to try to pass it through three players. I don't know, that one sort of like if you go up 1-0 there, all of a sudden it's a different game. Um, I also just quickly want to say how weak of a penalty call that was on McDavid, the Tanev one. That was, I don't
I
know,
didn't see it.
just it's the knob block. It's almost like the refs. sort of heard Knobloch's bitching and moaning and after the press conference where they want a standard, but that's not a standard for playoff hockey. That's literally just a push, and McDavid fell really easily. If anything, it was more of a rough on Nugent Hopkins and McDavid after on Tanev. So I mean, I'm not saying that the Stars lost because of that, but obviously whenever the Oilers went on to score on that power play, that probably didn't really help their chances.
Yeah, for sure. And it was definitely a slow start. I mean, they had 10 shots through two periods. But like you said, on a goalie that has a below 900 save percentage, you think you'd want to be getting more pucks on him. So to only have 10 shots through two periods isn't going to be a winning recipe most games, unless you're Vancouver against Nashville. But I mean, yeah, like it was the first time this series that a team that basically started the game off well held the lead.
Held the
So
lead, yeah.
maybe Dallas was trying to suck in the first period on purpose because teams that got up to hot starts in this series have lost most of the games. But it was nice to see a team actually grab a lead and hold on to it the whole time. Um, Edmund did capitalize on their power play, which was nice to see. It's been kind of struggling the last couple, like this whole series in general, but over the last couple games for sure. So it's nice to see them get back on the power play and actually capitalize other than someone other than Draisaitl and McDavid, or I guess Hyman too for that matter. But yeah, Nuge got two, which was cool to see. Him kind of provide that depth scoring that they've needed. Obviously, he's a bigger piece, but um anybody outside of Hyman, Draisaitl, or McDavid scoring is definitely depth scoring. So they'll take that wherever they can get it. And I found they just played a lot better defensively than they have all series long. Like the 20 shots is a little bit towards Dallas not getting pucks on it, but it's also a testament to Edmonton actually holding their own and blocking a lot of shots.
Yeah, and then transferring over to the other series, it's been one of those it's been a series where I think that this could have been over in 4 games for the Panthers if Igor Shesterkin was not the goalie. I mean,
100%.
talk about a performance. He's single-handedly keeping this Rangers team in the series. If he no diss to Jonathan Quick or any other goalie, but if or even Stuart Skinner, if you put Stuart Skinner against this Florida team as the Rangers goalie, this series is over already. Igor Shesterkin has been unbelievable, and then the Rangers have just since because of the Shesterkin holding them in, they've just been able to get that 1 or 2 goals uh past Bobrovsky. And at this rate, if you score more than 3 goals on Bobrovsky, I don't think there's very many games in these playoffs where Shesterkin's going to give up more than two.
Yeah, for sure. Every game other than game one's been a one goal game, a couple of them going into overtime. It's been a super tight series. And like you said, that is a big part to Shesterkin. But I mean, it just shows how good Florida is. Like I picked New York to win the series at the beginning, but after watching the series, every game that goes by, the more I don't see New York. Obviously, they're down 3-2, but every game that happens in this series, I feel like New York has a lesser of a chance because Florida's just beating these guys down. They like obviously New York's probably more talented than Florida is, but Florida's just beating these guys down. They look tired, they look hurt, and obviously they're out there trying their best, but they just look a step behind Florida in most aspects of the game except for goaltending, like you said. But it is pretty fun to watch, although all the games have been low scoring. It's kind of just entertaining to see Florida physically and mentally beat down on a team as
Hmm.
bad as they are right now.
And I just want to talk about how much of a no-show Panarin and Zibanejad have been. Zibanejad doesn't have a point yet in this series.
Honestly, I think that's just, I don't even think that's on them. I think that's like I've been saying on Florida, just how much they beat their star players down and how hard it is to play against that team on a nightly basis. Obviously, you still do got to put up points being that star player, but that's just the game Florida plays. It's hard to score on them.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's hard to score, but I mean, you're in the conference finals. You
Yeah.
need these. Like I think
Their power play's been
the
brutal.
only reason that I think Shesterkin has had to keep them in this series is because these players aren't showing up.
For sure.
If these players show up, and like I know you said that obviously Florida plays a mean game, they wear you down. But I mean these guys, you're this far into the playoffs already. You got to do something. You got to change something up. If these guys were playing at their ability that we know they can play, it might be a completely different series. And the fact that Florida might be or the Rangers might be the team that's up 3-2 right now.
Yeah, it definitely could happen. I'm just kind of looking right now, checking to see. if New York has any power play goals in this series. Um, New York has one power play goal this series through 5 games. I don't know how many attempts they've had. But yeah, definitely one power play goal won't get it done, and that's normally where your big guys get their points in the playoffs because it's so hard to score, especially the farther you get. But so if they want any chance of coming back, especially having Game 6 in Florida, they're gonna have that power play is gonna have to get going because that's how you get your big guys going. If they can get a first period power play goal, um, with some of those big guys getting points, maybe that brings confidence back and they look like a totally different team. But right now it's looking pretty bleak.
Yeah, I want to talk quickly about Alexi Lafreniere. He's finally starting to come alive as he was taken first overall a couple of years ago. A lot of people had knocked on him, but coming into the season, but he's finally looking like the first overall pick that we thought, which is good to see. Obviously, he's a Canadian kid, so we like to see the Canadians showing out. If or the sorry, the opposite can be said about Capo Caco. He's in and out of the lineup. Um, could you consider or would you consider Capo Caco one of the worst second overall picks in recent history?
Well, obviously by his stats right now, sure, but he's still only like 22 or something, so I'm not going to say that yet. Um, he hasn't been great, but neither was Lafreniere until the kind of this year. It just kind of shows I feel like it's hard for young prospects to join a good team. Like Lafreniere I wouldn't say unlucky because he's on a Final Four team right now, but to get drafted first overall because of that COVID draft where New York was actually good and still got the first overall pick, it's hard to join a team like that. Like, of course, Bedard's going to look really good because he's not on a great team, right? And I'm sure Celebrini's going to look great on the Sharks. Speaking of Will Smith signed, I think because they found out that Celebrini's going to be
Celebrini's
there.
gonna be there.
Um, I think Celebrini's going to look good too because he's on a team where he is the guy. But when you're Lafreniere and Capo Caco, they've been playing on the third line for most of their career so far. Lafreniere's been given that boost now that he's playing so well. But it's tough. I mean, with all the star power they got to try and find your spot, those guys are used to being the man on every team they've ever played on, and to kind of be a depth role has got to be hard for Caco. So I wonder if he would look good somewhere else where he's given a better opportunity. But to
Yeah,
date, he's been struggling to stay in the lineup.
I was
Hasn't been.
just about to say he sort of seems like one of those players that could use a change of scenery this off season. Will we see that move? I could definitely see it. He's been in and out of the lineup. Matt Rempe's been in the lineup. I know they're like 23, 2-1 with him in the lineup,
It's
but
crazy.
um he also the fact that he only played 4 minutes last game is the most in a NHL, there's the least in, I should say, in an NHL playoff game, not including an injury for a forward. Um,
Yeah,
he didn't
that's
get a
tough.
shift. He didn't get a shift in the whole third period, and his last shift came with like 4 minutes left in the second period.
That just shows there's no trust there, right? By the coach. The coach doesn't feel like if you're going to get out there, you're going to win your shift. So, um, you bring up a good point. Like he would still have value, being so young and just the name of a second overall pick. So, um, I feel like you could get a pretty decent return there. I feel like if you're New York, we won't talk about it yet because they're still in, but I feel like what we've seen from this playoffs is their defense could use some help. Their offense, other than the people that are struggling, I mean, you got to figure they'll figure that out at some point if they can stay alive. It's kind of the defense to me that looks a little shaky on New York. Trouba's taken 3 penalties a game,
I was
basically.
literally just about to bring that up.
Doesn't
Good
look.
or what did you think of the elbow to Rodriguez?
I think he got super lucky. Obviously, I don't think. I mean, you might think different being in a metro and having that against Sidney
I
Crosby
just
before,
absolutely
but
hate Trouba. He's definitely my least
he's dirty.
liked player in the whole NHL.
I think he is a dirty player, but in this instance, I personally don't think it was on purpose. I feel like he's been picked apart and
He's
every time Florida has the puck, they're going to him. Like they
he's
want that
getting burned.
matchup.
Like
Yeah, and that's what I mean.
he's looking like a Darnell Nurse out there where he looks
Yeah.
almost unplayable.
That's what I mean. So that's why I don't think it was on purpose because I think he got burned and he was just doing whatever he could to slow him up. And unfortunately, I'm kind of shocked it wasn't a suspension or anything, to be honest. But Even though he didn't clip the head, it was still pretty high and dangerous. And
It was like neck area. He
yeah,
got shoulder and then into the neck. I think
yeah,
that if Rodriguez would have gotten hurt or it would have been straight to
100%.
the head, I could see
100%.
him getting a game. You know, he did get fined. Um, but yeah, you brought up the point that every single time he's taking a penalty, it's because he's getting burned. So he's at the
Yeah,
point
it's
where
brutal.
he's like, you know, I got burned. The best thing I can do right now is hope that my penalty kill can kill this off. He's taken a penalty every single time he gets burned, which is almost like, well, at least two. He's got to be averaging a penalty a game in these playoffs. You know, he had three
Oh,
that one
easy,
game.
easy.
Um, you're at the point, like you said, Florida's gonna gravitate to that. They're gonna every time Trouba's on the ice with Philip Gustafson, who's not a defensive defenseman either. He's a gifted offensive defenseman playing on your
Yeah.
third pair. They're not gonna shy away from attacking Trouba because they know that if he gets burned, he's gonna try to pull you down. He's gonna stick out that chicken wing elbow. You know, he's gonna do something to stop you from getting burned. And I think Florida can figure that out and use that to their advantage moving
Yeah,
forward.
and like I feel like they have already. Like you said, Gustafson's no defensive defenseman. Truba's looking really slow. Keandre Miller's, it looks like the moment at this point in his career is a little bit too big and the light's shining a little too bright. He's been okay, but there's been some instances where you'd like a little bit more. And I don't know about you, but Adam Fox looks hurt to me.
I was literally about to bring that
Yeah.
up. He looks
So,
like he's playing banged up, but I mean Adam Fox banged up is probably you still probably want him on your team because he's just such a
oh,
smart
guaranteed.
hockey player. But yeah, he's not really taking those chances he did in the regular season when he was probably playing healthy. Um, so it does suck to see that one of the premier defensemen in the league is looking hurt. Speaking of premier defensemen, let's talk quickly about how good Miro Heiskanen is. I know we're
Yeah.
jumping back and forth between series,
Yeah.
but I know this just sort of brought up the idea. But I don't know. He's just such a fluid skater, and he's been put into that shutdown role where he's playing against Connor McDavid. It's kind of working. Pete DeBoer has not been shy to change up his D pairs. I think he's changed up his D pairs at least twice per game in this series.
Well, he doesn't
Um,
have a choice because they only have five defensemen really
yeah,
playing.
that Petrovic guy is looking a bit shaky. He is holding his own. He's playing better than the one guy they were playing like 5 minutes a night when they were basically playing 5D. But
Yeah.
um, I think that if Dallas does come back in this series, I really hope that Hawk and Paul can come back because then they're gonna be
That's
rolling
huge.
out six playoff worthy D where this team right now is playing at like 5.5 D man.
Yeah, I feel like this playoffs has really shown Haskins' defensive ability. Everyone already knows he's one of the best offensive defensemen in the league, but um, like you're never gonna stop McDavid and Draisaitl.
You gotta
But the fact
contain
that
them.
yeah, they definitely like he definitely is. I mean, it's just such a high pedestal we put Draisaitl and McDavid at that when they get a point per game, we're like, damn, they had a slow night. Like Haskins did good, but I mean, 2 games this series, Draisaitl went without a point.
Point, yeah.
Um,
And
McDavid.
McDavid and Draisaitl were pointless in game four, I believe, or
Yeah,
three.
and that's I mean, this is the only time this playoffs that's happened. So I feel like Haskins' defensive ability is really showing out. Obviously we've talked about it, the road they've had. They made like Heiskanen helped slow down a Vegas offense and then a really high-powered Colorado offense where we were kind of talking about the big guns not showing up, right? In that Colorado series. We were looking for a little bit more from those guys, and I feel like that's a big part due to Heiskanen. So
Hmm.
good all-around defenseman. I feel like people are finally starting to wake up to the 200-foot game he brings.
Speaking of defensemen, an Oilers defenseman was yesterday the fa fourth fastest defenseman to 500 career playoff points, that being Evan Bouchard. I want to know your sort of thoughts on his game. I'm not the biggest fan of him. I think he's very one-dimensional in the fact that he's only offensive and he's a bit of a liability in the defensive zone. But what are your sort of thoughts on Evan Bouchard's game?
Well, obviously he's a big part of that team, right? He, like you said, he does bring an amazing offensive game that not many defensemen can do. He's got a bullet of a shot from the point. He makes that power play move. He's a really solid passer, really good vision. Um, he's a perfect guy to have on the top of that power play formation you got. But yeah, it's the defensive part that he doesn't have that a lot of the other elite defensemen have, which is why he won't make uh, as much as the elite defenseman, but he's gonna cash in at some point. And I just feel like yeah, he's gonna have to figure that out. And that's with time. He's still pretty young. This playoff run should kind of help him figure that out, playing against top guys every night. Especially as you get deeper into the playoffs, you face better and better teams. But that is definitely a part of his game that he's gonna have to figure out if he wants to stay a number one. But um, the offense, it's just hard to talk about because it's crazy. He's just keeping up with Draisaitl and McDavid in points and being as a defenseman. You don't see that very often.
Yeah, you alluded to his shot there. I noticed that, especially in last night's game on their power play, they're sort of opening up to a one-timer with him. I liked on their first power play where they eventually scored that goal. The McDavid, like the puck movement, and then McDavid sort of swirled back, and there was a set play where Bouchard sort of stepped into it. Ottinger made the save, and then Nugent Hopkins was right there to bang it in. It seems like as this series has gone along, since their power play has sort of become quiet or gone quiet, the Oilers' power play, that is, they've sort of became more shot first mentality where they're just putting anything at net. They've sort of figured out that, not every goal in the playoffs especially has to be pretty. They just have to find the back of the net. Um, and that's alluded to it. We've seen goals go off Hyman. Last night we saw Nugent Hopkins bang in an easy rebound. But I just feel like that the Oilers team has sort of figured out a way to figure out their power play again after it has been shut down throughout most of this series.
For sure, and you don't see that very often. You make a good point. Like I don't know about Pittsburgh because they got two pretty good offensive defensemen, especially back in the day with Letang. But like the Leafs, for example, Morgan Riley's always the guy on the point, but he's probably the person who shoots the puck the least on the power play. Like the Leafs never shoot from the point. I don't know if Pittsburgh's any different, but I feel
No,
like
they don't.
a lot of teams they don't look for that point shot on the power play. Where Edmonton, Bouchard, he's not afraid to fire it on the power play because they got so many good guys. Like you said, Nuge can poke one in the dirty areas. Obviously Hyman's might be the best at it, and then if a rebound goes out to the side, you got Draisaitl waiting there for a one timer, and McDavid's always flying around. So. Um, I feel like you just don't see that very often, and for Edmonton it works, and that's what makes them so different than the rest.
Yeah, I'd almost like to like as a being a defenseman, I'd always like, especially Pittsburgh, watching their games. Eric Carlson is such a skilled offensive defenseman, and his defensive game was actually pretty good this year for his stature. But there was almost times where he would try to make too many plays. Where if you watch his highlights in the World Championship with Sweden, he was putting everything on net. So I'd sort of like the Penguins to adapt that this year, where Carlson, he had 6 goals in 10 games of the World Championships, as a defenseman. He was literally putting everything on net. And me being a defenseman, I am so okay with just a shot from the point. Doesn't have to be anything pretty, just some on net to make the goalie make a save, make one of the penalty killers have to block a shot to get out of position, maybe a rebound sitting there. I would like to sort of see it more in the NHL in general, and Pittsburgh for sure.
Yeah, especially when you're facing such good goalies sometimes, especially like going against Ottinger here, the only way to beat them sometimes is through a tip or a screen and shots from the point are the best way to do that because obviously you're far away so that the puck takes a little bit of time to come in and gives players time to screen and tip and it's hard for a goalie to see that shot, right? So I would like to see a lot more, especially my team do that, but they don't really have a defenseman with a hard shot. Pittsburgh
Mhm.
does, so they could definitely use that. But um, I feel like if more teams use that, it's more playoff style goals you get through shots from the point, in my opinion. And I'm surprised teams don't use it as much as Edmonton seems to
Yeah,
this playoff.
not every goal has to be a highlight level goal.
Definitely not.
You said you have some sort of quiz.
Yeah, but we can save it. It wasn't that important. It was just kind of time filler. It was like playoff leader goals for every team and stuff like that.
Well, we can jump
Quickly, I
to
did
it.
want to bring up because we never talk about other sports. Who do you think's going to win the NBA Finals?
I think the Celtics will. I think they're too good. It seems like Porzingis is going to come back. I'm also not going to sit here and act like I've been watching basketball. I don't think I've watched a single playoff game. I've just sort of been keeping up the morning after. But I know
It's hard to
Porzingis was
watch
out
when there's
hurt.
sweeps all over the place, right?
It just hasn't been. I don't know. It hasn't been like closely contested. Like even last, like the Celtics swept, the Mavericks won in 5. Like these are conference finals. These are top 4 teams, and these sort of, I don't know. It's just I'm finding it getting sort of more predictable and boring. That's just my opinion. So I'm not gonna sit up here and act like I'm a basketball knowledge. I've been keeping up with this at all, but I'm gonna take the Celtics over the Mavs. As much as I
Yeah,
want to see the
yeah,
Mavs get
like
it, I'd love to see Luka get a ring.
yeah, it would be cool. But like you said, it's just kind of hard to watch because barring injury, right? You kind of knew the Celtics were going to come out of the East. The Mavs are a bit of a wild card out of the West. I'm sure not a lot of people predicted that, but um, it is pretty predictable and it makes it tough to watch, but I do think the Celtics will win too, just because they haven't had to play. They've lost two games this playoffs, right? So I feel like they're pretty rested compared to the Mavs who have had a pretty deadly run. And just kind of keeping up on every sport while we do it. What do you think about the Toronto City jerseys or what are
I
they called?
actually I'm a fan of them. I know
I love them.
I've seen
I
a
love
lot
them.
of like yes, like I feel it's been split 50-50 with people's thoughts, but I think that they're very nice.
I really
Um
like them.
I like the black. Uh I know a lot of even the Toronto players. I was listening to some of their interviews at the release party, and a lot of them are like 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 just because they don't want another black jersey in the MLB, you know, like that. Like that's just little details, but I think the skyline's great. I think like the concept, the night mode was great, where they're only going to wear them at night. And of course, Davis Schneider in the 14th inning last night walks it off.
It was a long game.
In the debut, I can't. I went to bed after the 13th inning. I was watching it in bed, and I'm like, oh my
Oh,
God. I know. If I would literally would have stood it for one more inning, I would have saw this. But I was already watching it in my bed in the 13th inning, and I'm like, okay, if they don't win here, they had so many chances to win it. I was like, they're gonna find a way to lose, and good way to wake up to this morning though, seeing that they did walk it off.
yeah, it's hard definitely making watching a 14 inning baseball game, especially when it was pretty low scoring and nothing was it wasn't like teams were trading runs in extra innings. It was like both teams were shutting each other out
Yeah.
and so that makes it tough to watch. But I really like the jerseys too. Like you said, I like how they're dark. I really like the hat with the Canadian leaf and the T
The
behind it.
T, yeah.
Yeah, I really like the way how they put like
Design them, yeah.
yeah, the Toronto outline with the CN Tower and all the
The
skyscrapers
skyline, yeah.
beside it, stuff
Yeah.
like that. That's pretty cool. And how they have the Toronto in red. I think it's just a cool little variation from obviously the Blue Jays. You expect them to be blue, but I like how they throw in some red for Canada there. And yeah, I'm a fan of the jerseys. Like you said, people are on and off with them, but I really like them too.
I know there's a lot of Toronto fans, like the 50-50 splits between the Toronto fans, but then there's also a bunch of like just MLB fans that I've seen that have just like the jerseys.
Yeah, fair enough. Do you have one that you think is that you really don't like? Have you seen all of them?
I've seen all of them. I don't like the Texas one is a bit boring. Um, I'm trying to. It's hard to think on the top of my head because I have seen a couple of them. Ones I really like. I really like the White Sox. I like.
White Sox.
I'm a big fan of just pinstripes. I like the.
Is there one out there that you like where in rankings and stuff that you said you've seen that is ranked pretty low that you
Yes,
actually
it's
like?
the Brewers one.
The Brewers one?
The
You know
brew.
what
It says
mine is?
Brew Crew across it.
Yeah, you like that
Um,
one?
and it's like it's like light blue, right?
Yeah,
I've seen that one. Not very many people like it. I'm personally am a fan of that one. I
fair
would
enough.
rock it.
I wouldn't rock this myself, and I don't know why I like it. I like the Boston one. I like the
Oh,
yellow.
the yellow.
Yeah, I'm a fan of it. It's so different. I actually kind of like it. It doesn't it like the yellow doesn't really make sense with Boston, but for that reason, I kind of
I
like it
think
actually.
for some reason I think it's like I think it does. Obviously, all of them have something to do with the city. Um, I'm gonna search up the explanation of it now.
Yeah, because I don't even know the explanation. Because like when you think of Boston, the Red Sox, obviously it's red and then maybe green for the Green Monster and stuff like that. But I don't know where you get the yellow from it. I thought it was pretty cool, and it just stands out, which I think is when you're making these jerseys, you're not making them to be boring, right? You're trying to stand out, and, and they definitely did a good job at that with the bright yellow.
So they're apparently on the Red Sox jerseys. One sec.
Trying to figure this out.
Yeah,
I would say probably my least favorite. I don't really like. Um, I don't like the Mariners one personally. I kind of just think it looks a little too blocky and a little
it's
too.
yellow and blue to typically capture one of the city's greatest sporting events. I believe that is the Boston Marathon.
Oh, cool.
Um, yeah, it pays tribute to the Boston Marathon, most recognizable event. The famous Patriots Day race utilizes yellow and blue as its main colors.
Oh, that's sweet.
So the City Connect uniform adopts colors that honor the spirit of Patriots Day weekend and features Boston in stencil across the front. And then I guess there is a 617 on the jersey somewhere, I guess, and that's the area code for Boston and for Fenway Park. So the
That's cool.
digits are and the team placed the digits within a racing bib to stimulate what Boston marathoners wear during the race.
Yeah, that's a cool backstory. And again, like you said, you don't really,
I'm trying to
unless
find where
you,
the 617 is. Oh,
if you,
it's right on the arm. It looks like a bib. Here.
sweet. Yeah, that's cool. And then,
You see it?
yeah, they're nice
Yeah.
jerseys. I like those
That's like
jerseys.
it's like in a bib style, like what obviously what marathon runners wear across their chest, stomach area.
Yeah, like most teams went with a color that kind of represents their team, where Boston kind of just went the total opposite way, which I really thought was cool.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. Do you have anything left before we wrap this episode up?
how much time do you got left?
Three.
Does it say 3 minutes? Well, then probably not. No, that's good.
Okay. I think we'll leave it there then. If you guys enjoyed, make sure you like and subscribe. As you are watching this, if you watch it when it comes out, me and Brandon are teeing off for a quick game of golf. So
Let's go.
wish us luck that we don't lose too many balls. But yeah,
Try not to lose any.
we'll be back next week.
See ya.